I pulled the trigger on my own family the day I leaked those bank records to the IRS, watching from a shadowed booth in a dive bar as the feds swarmed their McMansion like wolves on a fresh kill. Dad's voice cracked over the phone line, "Sadie. You bitch. How could you?" But I just sipped my whiskey neat, tasting the irony of his betrayal finally choking him. What he didn't know, what no one knew, was that I'd been rotting in a concrete cage for 5 years because I'd signed his sins away with a daughter's blind love. And now the scales were tipping, heavy with the weight of every lie he'd buried in my name. It started in the fluorescent hell of that courtroom in 2020, when the judge's gavel cracked like a gunshot and I heard the words, 10 years, echo off the marble walls of the federal courthouse in Chicago. I was 25, fresh out of Northwestern with an MBA that should have been my golden ticket to Wall Street. But instead, it chained me to a bunk in Logan Correctional Center. Embezzlement. Wire fraud. The works. $4.2 million siphoned from Dad's real estate empire. Horizon Properties. The prosecutors painted me as the mastermind, the Ice Queen daughter who'd cooked the books to fund her lavish lifestyle. Cocaine parties in the Gold Coast lofts. Designer bags dripping from my arm like counterfeit tears. Lies. All of it. But I stood there in that ill-fitting navy suit, my heart hammering like a jackhammer on Lakeshore Drive asphalt. And I said nothing. Because spilling the truth would have gutted Mom. And Dad. Dad had begged me, his eyes wet with that crocodile charm. "Sadie, baby, it's just paperwork. Sign here, and we'll fix it. Family first. Always. Family first." What a crock. That trust fund Grandma left me, $2 million earmarked for my future, was the first casualty. Dad borrowed it in 2018 to plug a hole in Horizon's books. A black hole he dug with bad bets on Chicago's condo boom turning bust. He told me it was temporary. A family loan. But when the auditors came sniffing, he pinned it on me. "Sadie handled the finances," he'd say in those board meetings, his voice smooth as bourbon on the rocks, while I nodded like the dutiful daughter, buried under spreadsheets I'd never touched. The feds found the transfers in my name, my digital signature forged but flawless, and the jury, 12 strangers from the suburbs, eyeing me like I was the villain in their American dream nightmare, didn't buy my wide-eyed innocence. 10 years. Reduced to 7 with good behavior. But those 2 years inside, they carved me hollow. Prison wasn't the hell they show in movies. No shank fights in the showers. Just the slow drip of regret in a 6x8 cell that smelled like bleach and broken promises. I shared space with women who'd clawed their way through worse. A Latina mom doing time for boosting diapers to feed her kids. A black accountant framed by her boss like some twisted echo of my life. We traded stories over lukewarm oatmeal in the mess hall. Their laughter a rare spark in the gray. "Girl, revenge is a dish best served cold," Marla, my cellie, would whisper as lights out buzzed, her voice thick with South Side grit. "But make sure it's plated on their grave." She taught me poker. Not for chips, but for reading bluffs, the kind Dad mastered long before I could walk. I got out in 2023, paroled early for exemplary conduct, which meant I'd snitched on a guard smuggling contraband, trading one betrayal for another. The air outside those razor wire gates tasted like freedom laced with ash. Chicago's summer humidity clung to my skin like guilt as I stepped into a world that had moved on without me. Mom picked me up in her Lexus hybrid, the one Dad bought to virtue signal at country club brunches, her Botox smile cracking at the edges. "Sadie, honey, your skin and bones. Let's get you to the spa." Spa? I'd spent years dreaming of a hot shower without pat-downs, But her idea of welcome was a mani-pedi at Neiman Marcus. As if nail polish could scrub the ink from my permanent record. Home wasn't home anymore. The family pile in Lincoln Park, 6 bedrooms of Georgian excess overlooking the lagoon, felt like a mausoleum. Dad greeted me at the door with open arms. His cologne sharp as his lies. Silver threading his temples like warnings I should have heeded. My girl, look at you. Tougher than ever. He pulled me into a bear hug that squeezed the air from my lungs. Mom hovering like a ghost in pearls. Over dinner that night, filet mignon bleeding onto Wedgwood plates, he laid it out casual as passing the wine. The trust fund. Sadie? We had to use it. Horizon was bleeding red after the crash. But look at us now, back on top. Your sacrifice. It saved everything. Sacrifice. Like I'd volunteered for the fall guy role. I stabbed my fork into the steak. Juice pooling like unspoken accusations. And forced a smile. Glad I could help. Dad. But I wasn't done helping. Not by a long shot. In prison, I'd had time, endless, grinding time to piece it together. Marla's cousin worked in records at Cook County. Slipped me photocopies of the original ledgers during a conjugal visit setup. Dad's handwriting, not mine, on the falsified transfers. Emails from his burner account to shell companies in the Caymans, laundering the rest. And the kicker? That hole in Horizon? It wasn't bad investments. It was payoffs. Bribes to zoning board cronies for fast-tracking permits on lakefront high-rises, skirting environmental regs that would have tanked the projects. Dad wasn't just a crook, he was a kingpin in Chicago's pay-to-play real estate game. The kind that elects mayors and buries scandals under foundation concrete. I played the good daughter for months, crashing on the guest room couch that overlooked the lake, where sailboats bobbed like buoys on my rage. By day, I tempeed at a coffee shop in Wicker Park, steaming lattes for hipsters typing manifestos on their Macs, their privilege a mirror to what I'd lost. Nights, I holed up in the basement office Dad had converted to a wine cellar, his MacBook Pro unlocked because trust funds by complacency. I mirrored his drive to an external, combed through terabytes of deleted files, resurrected with freeware I'd learned from online tutorials via the prison library's ancient PCs. Blueprints for bribes. Voicemails from aldermen demanding consulting fees. Even a grainy video of Dad handing an envelope thick as a Bible to a union boss in a loop parking garage. The deeper I dug, the uglier it got. Mom knew. Not the details. But enough, her emails to Dad from 2018. Fix this before Sadie finds out. She's our baby. Our baby. As if I were a liability. Not flesh and blood. And then the secret that nearly broke me. The trust fund wasn't just borrowed. Grandma's will specified it for me alone. A hedge against Dad's reckless tendencies, as she called them in her codicil. He contested it in probate court, whispering to the judge about my instability, a fabricated history of partying he planted in my juvenile records after a dumb DUIs at 18. I found the docket online, buried in Pacer, his signature flourish mocking mine on those forged docs. By fall, I had a dossier thicker than a Tolstoy brick, USB drives stashed in safety deposit boxes under aliases I'd bought off a dark web forum for $200 in Bitcoin mined on prison contraband phones. I could have gone straight to the feds, played the whistleblower card for immunity. But that was too clean. Too American justice porn. No. This needed teeth. The kind that gnaws slow and leaves scars. Dad's empire was peaking. Horizon's IPO loomed. Shares set to debut on NASDAQ at $28 a pop, valuing the company at $1.2 billion. Investors drooling from New York to Silicon Valley, blind to the rot. Mom's charity galas in the spotlight, Dad's face on Crane's Chicago business as the comeback king. I wanted to watch it all crumble, brick by gilded brick, from the front row. The plan crystallized over a solo pint at the Matchbox in Old Town, where the jukebox wailed Springsteen anthems about working-class ghosts. Leak the files anonymously, timed to the IPO roadshow. But not all at once, drip-feed them to journalists, regulators, even rival developers hungry for dirt. Make it look like an insider purge. Accusations flying like shrapnel. Controversial? Hell yes. Because in the crossfire, innocents would bleed, the 200 union plumbers on payroll, the single moms in subsidized units' horizon was flipping into luxury condos. I'd be torching jobs, displacing families, my own kind of original sin. But Dad's greed had displaced thousands already, evicting tenants from Bronzeville walk-ups to build glass towers for tech bros. Eye for an eye. Only mine came with compound interest. I started small, testing the waters. An email to the Sun-Times tip line, a redacted ledger showing a $500,000 donation to the mayor's re-election PAC, time-stamped to a zoning variance. By morning, it splashed across the metro section. Horizon Properties linked to City Hall's slush fund? Dad's phone rang off the hook at breakfast, his face paling like skim milk. Some hack job, he muttered, stabbing his poached eggs. Mom fluttered. Publicity's good, right? Keeps us relevant. I sipped my coffee black, hiding my smirk behind the funnies. Relevant. Yeah, like a cancer diagnosis. Emboldened, I escalated. A whistleblower post on Reddit's r/Chicago, anonymous. VPN routed through Toronto, detailing the forgery trail, with screenshots watermarked to look legit. Threads exploded. This is bigger than Enron. Sadie Ellis, framed or fall girl? My old Sally's words echoed, cold and plated. The SEC noticed. Inquiries pinged Dad's lawyers like mosquitoes at a backyard barbecue. He paced the study that night, scotch in hand, barking at associates on speakerphone. I eavesdropped from the hall, heart pounding with a thrill darker than lust. This was power, raw and unfiltered, the kind Dad wielded like a scepter while I rotted. But cracks formed in my armor. Mom cornered me one afternoon in the sunroom, her hands trembling as she clutched a crystal vase like a shield. Sadie, if this is you, stop. Your father's not perfect, but he did it for us. The crash would have taken everything, the house, your college, my treatments. Treatments? She'd battled breast cancer in 19. Chemo bills horizon quietly covered. Guilt twisted like a knife. Had Dad's schemes bankrolled her survival? He loves you, honey. More than anything. Love. The words soured on my tongue. If love was forging my future into felony cuffs, sign me out. I doubled down. Conscience be damned. The night before the roadshow in Manhattan, I hit send on the motherlode, full dossiers to ProPublica, the Chicago Tribune, even a Fox affiliate for that partisan kick. Timed for 6 a.m.
T'es droite.
With a chaser to the U.S. Attorney's office, enough to freeze assets mid-pitch. Dad flew out at dawn. Private jet to LaGuardia. Clueless as a lamb to the auction block. I watched from O'Hare's departure lounge, nursing a terminal latte, as alerts buzzed. Breaking. Horizon fraud scandal rocks real estate giant. Shares tanked pre-market. Investors fleeing like rats from the John Hancock blaze. the fallout was biblical. Feds raided the Lincoln Park manse while I was out job hunting, SWAT teams in tack vests, barking orders through bullhorns, Mom screams piercing the autumn chill. I got the call from a burner, Dad. Voice slurry with rage and bourbon. You traitorous little cunt. I gave you life. Life. He'd stolen mine. Rot in hell.
Sadie.
But know this. You killed your mother too.
Click.
Hard in my throat. I raced back, dodging news vans like landmines. Mom was gone, heart attack in the chaos. Paramedics wheeling her out on a gurney. Sheet mercifully over her face. Dad in cuffs. Spitting venom at the agents. This is a setup. My daughter's the snake. I didn't cry. Not then. The media circus swallowed us whole. Pundits on CNN debating family vendetta or corporate justice, while I holed up in a no-tell motel on the south side, TV flickering like a bad acid trip. Dad made bail. $5 million in bonds from shell accounts I hadn't torched yet. And the calls started, pleas from cousins, curses from uncles. Sadie, you destroyed the legacy. Legacy? A pyramid of lies built on the backs of the evicted, the bribed,
The betrayed.
But Mom's funeral cracked something in me, standing graveside in black wool. Rain pattering on the tent like accusatory fingers. Her casket lowered into the earth she'd loved tending. Dad didn't show, too busy lawyering up. I tossed a single rose, thorns pricking my palm, and whispered, I'm sorry,
Mom.
but he had to pay. The climax hit like a nor'easter off Lake Michigan. Dad's trial loomed in federal court, but he flipped the script, cunning as ever. The bastard. His lawyers subpoenaed me as a hostile witness, painting me as the vengeful ex-con with an axe to grind. Leaks to the press. Daughter's revenge plot. Did Sadie Ellis orchestrate the leak? Suddenly, I was the villain again. Forums buzzing with Burn the Witch memes. My face plastered on true crime pods. He even dredged up my prison stint, implying I'd radicalized inside. Maybe shivved a snitch for practice. Controversial? It split the city, blue-collar types cheering my takedown of the elite, while white-collar drones decried family destruction as the real crime. I countered with a bombshell of my own, a press conference outside the courthouse, flanked by Marla's pro bono attorney, a firebrand from the Innocence Project. Microphones thrust like spears. I laid it bare, first-person raw. No filter. My father didn't just steal money, he stole my freedom. I served 7 years for his greed, signed away my life because blood's thicker than ink. But ink doesn't lie. Here's the proof. I handed over the USBs. Liv streamed the handover. Cameras flashing like St. Elmo's fire. The crowd roared, half cheers, half jeers, pushing me into Chia Fee territory. Readers picking sides in comment sections. Sadie's a hero versus she's a monster who orphaned her own kin. Dad's face in the gallery, priceless, pale as Lake Superior ice, eyes bulging with that final flip. He lunged, restrained by bailiffs, screaming, lies, all lies from a junkie whore. The judge gavels for order, but the damage stuck. Jury deliberations dragged 2 weeks. Chicago buried under a polar vortex that mirrored the chill in my veins. Guilty on all counts. 20 years. No parole. Horizon liquidated. Assets seized. The empire dust. I walked out into the snow. Free but fractured. The weight of Mom's ghost and 100 displaced families heavy as the drifts. But the twist? It came in a manila envelope, postmarked from a Cayman P.O. box. Delivered to my new studio in Pilsen 6 months later. No return address. Just Dad's scrawl. Read this.
Sadie.
Then decide if you're the villain. Inside, a DNA report. Yellowed with age. From a clinic in Milwaukee. 1995. Probability 99.9%. Not a match. Mom wasn't my mother. Dad's affair with his secretary. Conceived me in a high-rise fling. Passed off as Mom's miracle baby after her miscarriages. The trust fund? Grandma's spiteful gift to the real granddaughter. But Dad rerouted it to hide the affair's hush money. I'd borne his sins not out of love, but because he feared the truth. I was the bastard. The secret he'd buried deeper than any ledger. I burned it in the sink that night. Flames licking the edges as Springsteen crooned Thunder Road from my Bluetooth speaker. Hero? Villain? Or just the ghost of a family that never was? Chicago hummed outside. Indifferent, its lights a constellation of what-ifs. Revenge tasted like ash, but damn if it didn't settle the score. Or did it? You tell me, because in the end, blood's just ink on a page. And the story's yours to judge. The envelope's ashes swirled down the drain like confetti from a funeral I'd never mourned. But sleep evaded me that night. The Pilsen streets alive with distant sirens that sounded like Dad's fading curses. By dawn, I'd made my choice. One last play. The kind that blurs the line between closure and cruelty. I booked a flight to Miami, nonstop on Southwest. The discount airline for the fallen, armed with a disposable phone and a wad of cash from temping gigs at Ticarius, where the owners didn't card for felonies. Dad's prison was Coleman. Low-security federal camp in the Florida swamps. A concrete oasis for white-collar wolves who'd clawed their way down from penthouses. Visiting hours were Wednesdays. But I sweet-talked the clerk with a sob story about reconciliation, flashing Mom's obituary like a backstage pass to hell. The drive from Orlando Airport was a humid blur. Palmettos flanking eye for like silent sentinels. Radio droning Rush Limbaugh reruns about deep state vendettas.
Fitting.
Coleman loomed off Highway 27. Chain link and guard towers baking under the sun. Inmates in khaki milling like extras in a bad prison flick. I signed in at the plexiglass window. My reflection fractured, hair pulled back in a no-nonsense ponytail. Jeans and a Cardinals hoodie to blend with the Midwestern visitors. No makeup. Let him see the hollows under my eyes. The scars prison etched like tattoos on my soul. They buzzed me through to the visitation room. A sterile box of Formica tables bolted to the floor. Vending machines humming with off-brand chips. Dad shuffled in 5 minutes late. Cuffs jangling softly, perks of minimum security, and for a heartbeat, I saw the man who taught me to ride a bike on the lakefront paths. His laugh booming over ice cream cones from Garrett's. Then reality snapped back, gray roots stark against his comb-over. A paunch, straining the polyester shirt, eyes narrowed to slits of calculation. He slid into the seat opposite, folding his hands like a preacher at Sunday service. Sadie. Didn't expect you'd come crawling back. Crawl? I'd scorched his world to cinders. I leaned forward, elbows on the scarred table, voice low as the AC's drone. Not crawling.
Dad.
Closing the book. His smirk faltered. Just a twitch. But I caught it. Years of poker with Marla honed that instinct. The DNA test, I said, sliding a photocopy across. The one I'd printed at a Kinko's in Wrigleyville before flying out. Explain. He glanced, then away, toward the barred window where buzzards circled a distant pine. Old news.
Kiddo.
Your mom, real mom. I mean, she was a fling. Secretary at the firm. Complications with the pregnancy. She bailed after you popped out. I did right by you.
Right.
By forging a family. By dangling me as bait for his schemes. That trust fund? Grandma knew. Left it to you to spite me, thinking it'd keep you pure from my world. I just redirected. For the family we built. Built on quicksand. I pressed, fingers drumming a rhythm like the metronome he'd used for my violin lessons. And framing me? That was for the family, too? His eyes flicked back. Cold now, the charm sloughing off like dead skin. You were young, ambitious. Took the heat like a champ. Horizon survived because of it, jobs for hundreds. That new wing on the hospital your mom loved. You're welcome. Gratitude curdled in my gut, bitter as the weak coffee from the machine. Mom died because of you. Stress from the raid snapped her heart like a twig. He leaned in, voice a conspirator's whisper, breath sour with institutional toothpaste. And you think leaking those files fixed that? You're a murderer too.
Sadie.
Indirectly. Sure. But blood's on your hands same as mine. The room spun a tick. Guards eyeing us from the corner. But his words landed like hooks in flesh. Controversial truth. My revenge hadn't resurrected her. It had just widened the grave. What do you want? He hissed. Absolution? Won't get it here. I slid another paper across, a petition for compassionate release. His name pre-filled. My signature as sponsor, glaring in blue ink. Sign it. Walk free after her service would have been. We bury the hatchet, literally, if you want. Horizon's gone. But they're scraps. Offshore accounts I didn't touch. Enough for a quiet life in Boca. Golf and regrets. His laugh barked, echoing off the cinder block. Trap.
Huh.
Feds monitoring, waiting for me to wire a dime. You're good.
Sadie. Better than me.
But greed flickered. That old demon. And he uncapped the pen I'd smuggled in my bra. Contraband for the win. As he scrawled, I watched, pulse steady as the Everglades. The plan? Fake the release. Tip the marshals to the pickup. Watch him rabbit to a sting in international waters. Poetic, the smuggler smuggled. But as the ink dried, he met my gaze. And something cracked vulnerability, raw as a fresh tattoo. I loved you.
Kid.
In my way. You're all I have left, lie or not. It pierced. Family's a drug, addictive and lethal, and I'd mainline the detox. Back in Chicago, winter gripped the city like a vice. Lake Michigan freezing into jagged plates that mirrored my fractured reflection in the John Hancock's glass facade. The petition sailed through, Dad's health declining, per a bought doc's note, and release day dawned gray. Snow flurries dancing like ashes from Mom's urn. I staked out the gates from a rental Taurus. Thermos of Dunkin' steaming on the dash. Radio tuned to WBEZ for traffic that never came. At noon, the van rolled up, khaki figure stepping into swampy freedom. Duffel slung over shoulder. Squinting at the sun like a mole. He didn't bolt straight, played it cool. Thumbing a ride to a bus depot in Wildwood, where I tailed in the Taurus. Heart jackhammering. From there, Greyhound south to Tampa. Me on the tail via Amtrak parallel. The tip-off burned in my pocket. Anonymous call to ICE. Flagging his alias for a border hop. Controversial calculus. Let him flee. Then yank the chain. Or clip him now. Pundits still debated my heroism on podcasts. Listeners split. Sadie's justice porn versus Vigilante poison. I was both. Neither. The gray zone where America thrives. Tampa's port district reeked of diesel and desperation. Freighters hulking like beached whales under sodium lights. Dad met his contact at a dive called the Salty Dog, ponytailed smuggler with a Myanmar tattoo. Cash exchanging hands over conch fritters. I watched from a shadowed booth. Hoodie up, nursing a yangling that tasted like regret. The boat was a rust bucket go fast, idling for the Bahamas run. As he boarded, duffel thumping the deck. Our eyes locked across the pier, recognition flashing like a flare. He froze, then mouthed it. Why? Because closure's a myth.
Dad.
I nodded to the shadows where feds melted from the fog, my tip, precise as a scalpel. Sirens wailed, blue lights fracturing the night, his contact bolting into the mangroves as agents swarmed. Dad didn't run, stood tall, hands up, the king dethroned. Sadie, he bellowed over the chaos, betrayal twisting his features. You set me up, yeah. And it felt like exhaling after years underwater. Extradition back to Coleman. Charges stacked, flight to avoid, conspiracy. 20 became life. No takebacks. I flew home coach. The Midwest unspooling below like a quilt of what-ifs, landing in O'Hare's bustle where folks hustled past without a glance. Marla met me at baggage claim, her hug fierce as Southside steel. You did it, girl. Cold and plated. We grabbed deep dish at Lou Malnati's. Cheese pulling like strings of fate, toasting with malort that burned clean. But the twist lingered, festering. Months later, a letter from prison contraband, smuggled via a guard I'd greased through Marla's network. Dad's words, shaky but sharp. You think you won? Check the fine print on Grandma's will. The trust fund wasn't spite, it was blood money. She killed your real mom in a hit-and-run, covered it with Horizon stock. I protected you from that truth, framed you to keep you close, away from the wolves sniffing old scandals. Revenge? You avenged the wrong ghost. I crumpled it, but doubt wormed in. A quick search on Lexus, sealed court file from '94. Milwaukee County, vehicular homicide, dismissed for insufficient evidence. Grandma's Mercedes. A rainy night. A young secretary crossing against the light. No charges, but the payout. $2 million trust. Laundered through family coffers. Dad hadn't stolen my future. He'd shielded it from a legacy darker than his own.
Now?
I run a nonprofit in Bronzeville, auditing developers for the little guys, turning my scars into shields. Happy ending? Tragic farce? The debate rages in my head. In bars where strangers argue Sadie Ellis, saint or sinner, over old styles. Blood's ink. Family's a forgery. And the story? It's unfinished. Looping like Chicago's L tracks into the night. Spring thawed Chicago's grip, but the chill in my bones lingered as I pored over those yellowed court docs in a loop law library. The hush broken only by the rustle of paralegals and the distant L train rumble. Grandma, Eleanor Ellis. Steel-haired matriarch who'd baked apple pies for block parties while brokering deals that bulldozed neighborhoods, hadn't just covered a hit-and-run. The file hinted at more. Witness tampering. A consulting fee to the responding officer. Echoes of Dad's playbook. My real mother. Elena Vasquez. 24. Undocumented from Puerto Rico. Waitressing doubles to fund community college night classes. One slick road. One veiled taillight. And poof, life erased. Baby outsourced to the winner's circle. Dad's protection? Or just another layer of the con? Keeping his bastard heir leashed with lies? I confronted him one last time. Not in Visitation's fishbowl, but via smuggled proxy, a burner phone taped inside a Bible Marla's cousin delivered during Easter services. His voice crackled through the static. Weaker now, laced with the hack of a smoker's cough. Dig all you want,
Sadie.
the grave's deep. But he spilled. Fragments at first, Elena's laugh like wind chimes. How he'd fallen hard during late-night audits at the diner. She named you Sadie for the song. Summertime Blues. Wanted you to chase dreams, not deals. Then the crash. Grandma's Mercedes sideswiping her on Lake Street. Eleanor's blood alcohol .09. But the family's clout turned it to mist. I took you in to honor her.
Kid.
The frame job? That was to toughen you. Make you unbreakable. Horizon was her dream too, affordable housing before the flippers ruined it. Unbreakable. I'd shattered like cheap crystal. Rage boiled. But so did pity, a toxic brew that kept me dialing. You let me rot for a lesson? That's love. His paws stretched. Heavy as Mississippi silt. Love's messy.
Sadie.
American as apple pie and regret. You want the truth? Elena's family, your abuelos, they're in San Juan. I sent checks anonymous. Kept tabs. Go find them. End the cycle.
Click.
The line died, leaving me staring at the Chicago River from my window seat at the gauge. Its waters churning green for St. Patty's. Tourists toasting fortunes I'd never chase. The flight to San Juan was a red eye on American. Turbulence mirroring the storm in my gut. Puerto Rico hit like a fever dream, salsa pulsing from open-air bars in Old San Juan. The air thick with plantains frying and sea salt. I rented a Jeep Wrangler, top down, navigating hairpin roads to Loiza, where Dad's intel pinpointed Elena's kin. The house was a concrete bunker splashed turquoise. Roosters strutting the yard like minor kings. Abuela Rosa answered the door. Her face a roadmap of wrinkles and wisdom. Eyes widening at my locket, Elena's. The one Dad had slipped me as a teen. Engraved Sadie.
Mi luz.
She pulled me inside without a word. The kitchen a shrine to the lost. Photos of Elena young and radiant. Prom dress billowing on a beach. My baby face superimposed in faded ink. Over café con leche strong as resolve. The story unfolded. Not vengeance, but vindication. Elena had suspected the cover-up. Whispered to Rosa about the rich lady's car before vanishing into witness protection that wasn't. They paid us to forget, Abuela said, hands twisting a dish rag like fate's threads. But we prayed for you.
Mia.
Every All Souls Day.
Tío Carlos.
Elena's brother. Grizzled and gold-toothed. Slapped a folder on the table, his own investigation. Yellowed news clips from El Nuevo Dia linking the Ellis name to tragic accidents in the 90s. Grandma's shadow stretched long. Deals greased with more than money. I stayed a week, crashing on a hammock strung between ceiba trees, learning bomba drums that pounded like heartbeats unsilenced. They weren't saints, family feuds over lottery winnings. A cousin in the pen for smuggling, but their love was unlaundered. Fierce as the Atlantic crashing Coquille Point.
Vuelve, they urged. Return.
But Chicago called, its skyline a magnet of unfinished business. Back stateside. I filed the appeal. New evidence for my conviction. Elena's file unsealed via FOIA. Proving Dad's forgery tied to the elder cover-up. The U.S. Attorney balked. Statute of limitations, but public pressure mounted. My story optioned by a Netflix true crime docuseries. Interviews with Thierry Abuela going viral on TikTok. Sadie Unbroken trended. Splitting feeds. Exoneration now. Versus. Don't undo justice for clicks. Dad's reaction? A smuggled note during my next visit. A proxy call from a burner in the prison laundry. Proud of you.
Kid.
But let it lie. Exposing Eleanor guts the whole line. Your inheritance. Such as it is. Inheritance. The offshore scraps. $800,000 in a BVI trust I'd cracked with a hacker buddy from prison alumni. Enough to fund the Loiza trip twice over. Or seed a new venture. I wired half to Rosa. Anonymous. The rest to a startup. Ellis Equity. Auditing nonprofits for fraud. Turning the Ellis name from curse to cautionary tale. The hearing landed in summer swelter. Federal court packed with reporters sweating in wool. Fans whirring like impatient juries. My lawyer, a shark from Skadden with a pro bono streak, laid out the web, Grandma's hit and run as the original sin, Dad's frame as the sequel. Exhibits flashed, DNA. Ledgers. Elena's obit from a throwaway rag. The judge, a grizzled vet with Bush-era glasses, peered over rims. MS. Ellis. This paints a canvas of corruption. But reopening a closed case? Precedent's a bitch. I testified. Voice steady as the witness stand oak. Your Honor. I didn't seek revenge for me. For Elena. For every daughter buried under family lies. Gasps rippled. A juror dabbed tears. Another scowled. Dad watched via video feed from Coleman. His image pixelated but potent, mouthing stop when I name-dropped the affair. The twist hit mid-cross. His own lawyer, cornered, admitted the forgery on record, mitigating circumstances, flipping the script to paint him the tragic antihero. Media frenzy peaked. Father's sacrifice or paternal poison? Pundits on MSNBC called it the ultimate family feud, while Fox spun liberal DOJ witch hunt. I was the fulcrum. Teetering. Ruling dropped at dusk. Conviction vacated. Record expunged. Restitution pending. $1.2 million from seized Horizon assets. Funneled to victim funds. Cheers erupted. But I slipped out a side door. The weight lifting only to reveal hollows beneath. Free. But forever the girl who torched her nest. Dad got a hearing too, compassionate release granted on health grounds. The cough now pneumonia's grip. He landed in hospice at Northwestern. The irony biting as morphine drips. I visited once. The room sterile as a confessional. Monitors beeping like accusatory clocks. He was frail. Skin papery over bones. But eyes sharp. You won.
Sadie.
No apology. Just facts. Elena's proud. Check the locket, secret compartment. I did. Later, a tiny photo. Elena cradling newborn me. Her smile a sunrise over Carolina hills. Forgive, he rasped. I squeezed his hand, veins mapping rivers of regret. Maybe. In the next life. He slipped away at midnight. Monitors flatlining to the tune of a city that never sleeps. Funeral was small. Me, Marla, a handful of Horizon holdovers nursing grudges and grudging respect. No eulogy, just scattering ashes off Navy Pier. Wind whipping them toward the horizon where Elena's sea met mine. Back in Pilsen. The nonprofit thrived. First client, a displaced family from a Horizon flip. Their gratitude a bomb. Abuela visited for Thanksgiving. Her eras con Gandal's outshining turkey. Tio regaling with tales of Elena's fire. Happy? Tragic? The debate echoes in boardrooms and bars. My story a Rorschach for America's soul. Betrayal's bite or redemption's roar. I choose both. Inked in a locket against my chest. Beating with every pulse. Me lose. Unbroken. Autumn leaves carpeted the 606 trail as I jogged its paths. The crunch under Nike's a rhythm syncing with my breath. Controlled. Deliberate. The kind of pace that outruns ghosts. Ellis Equity had ballooned to 10 staffers. Crammed into a Wicker Park loft with exposed brick and dreams bigger than the rent. We'd busted 3 shady developers by fall. Reallocating millions to community land trusts. The kind Elena would have championed with her night class fire. Headlines called me the redeemed Avenger, but late nights. Scrolling X, formerly Twitter. The vitriol balanced the praise. Sadie Ellis, profiting off daddy's corpse from anon-trolls. Or, finally, a win for the little guy from activists with blue-check halos. Chia Fee. Indeed, readers picking teams like it's the Cubs versus Sox. No room for the gray where I lived. The restitution check cleared in October. A cool mill after taxes. Wired to an account I'd opened under Vasquez Equity as a nod to roots. Half-seated a scholarship fund for undocumented dreamers at Malcolm X College. The rest? A down payment on a brownstone in Logan Square. Its bay windows framing the skyline like a painting of possibilities. Marla crashed the closing, popping a view of weeds smuggled past the realtor. Her toast slurring. From bars to brownstones.
Bitch.
Who's the crook now? Laughter bubbled. Real and rare. But solitude crept in after. Nights on the rooftop deck. City lights winking like conspirators. Wondering if closure was just another con. Then the final flip, a certified letter from the Cayman's trustee. Envelope heavy with finality. Dad's will, hastily notarized in hospice. Witnessed by a nurse and his cellmate from Coleman, bequeathed the lot. Remaining offshore $400,000. A '72 Corvette garaged in Gary. And Horizon's patent portfolio. Ghosted through LLCs I'd missed in the purge. To Sadie Marie Ellis Vasquez, it read. For the daughter who taught me truths sharper than any knife. Vasquez. He'd known. Claimed me fully in death. Attached, a codicil.
Arid.
Spilling the unvarnished. Grandma's crash was an accident. Road rage after Elena rebuffed her generous offer to abort the affair baby. Eleanor. Cornered at a red light. Floored it. Then lawyered the fallout. Dad covered, not for love, but leverage. The secret bound Elena's family to silence. And me to him. I was the villain, he wrote. But villains make the best heroes' foils. Break the wheel. Kid. I didn't cry. Instead, drove to Gary at dawn. The Corvette's V8 growling like a beast unchained. Rusted fenders gleaming under Indiana sun. Top down. Wind therapy. I pushed it to 90 on I-90. Horns blaring from semis as if cheering the prodigal's joyride. Parked it in the brownstone garage. A relic of roads not taken. The patent royalties trickled. Green tech for modular housing. Ironic salvation from the empire's guts. Funding expansions into Detroit and Philly. Cities chewing on the same real estate rot. Abuela's second visit brought Tio and a gaggle of primos. Turning Thanksgiving into a bomba blowout. Drums thumping through the brownstone till neighbors banged pots in mock protest. Rosa cornered me by the espresso machine, her grip iron on my wrist. Elena would say you're enough, stop chasing devils. Enough. The word settled like manna. But devils die hard. A tip came via the nonprofit hotline, a Loop developer. Ex-Horizon exec named Harlan Tate. Sniffing around Bronzeville with blueprints for revitalization that reeked of gentrification. Harlan, Dad's right hand in the tens. The envelope passer in that parking garage video. I could have ignored it. Let karma's slow grind handle the hack. But the wheel spun again. Anonymous dossier to his board. Laced with Tate's own forgeries. Timed to their quarterly. Shares dipped. Lawsuits loomed. Harlan calling my bluff from a blocked number. Ellis blood runs true. Vindictive to the core. Vindictive? Or vigilant? The line blurred as his empire teetered. Tenants spared eviction by the chaos. Controversial win. Jobs lost. But homes saved. The split verdict in op-eds that quoted my unreliable past. Winter Solstice brought the docuseries premiere, Netflix gala at the Viaduct Theater. Red carpet slick with flashbulbs and schmoozers. I wore black silk. Simple as sin. Elena's locket gleaming at my throat. Interviews flowed. What now? Sadie, the host probed. Mike thrust like a sword.
Now?
I build. Not empires, equity. Claps rippled. But in the green room, a producer slipped me a script pitch. Sadie versus The System, Season 2. Temptation tugged. The vigilante itch. But I demurred. Fiction's for folks without scars. Back home. Snow blanketing the deck. I uncorked the view, toasting alone to the Trinity. Eleanor. The architect of erasure. Dad. The forger of facades. Elena. The light that lingered. The twist? There was no end, just cycles. Broken and remade. Happy for the saved. Tragic for the scarred. Debatable as any American saga. Readers argue in the glow of their screens. Right or wrong. Hero or haunt.
Me?
I run the trail at dawn. Breath fogging the air. Chasing not revenge, but the horizon where me lose meets the rising sun. And if the will turns again, I'll be ready, ink in hand. Truth is my blade. Blood may be thicker, but justice runs deeper. A fade to black on that rooftop. City humming its endless hymn. Sadie Vasquez Ellis stepping into the light. Unbroken. Unbound.